Testing. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the third episode of the podcast that, again, still doesn't really have a name because the name isn't really my top concern. Yes, as you can see, I have shaved the beard. For the first time in 2 years, I have a bare face because I figured as not as many people are going to be seeing anymore, I'm not going to be going to the gym every single day. It doesn't matter if I don't like it, and I can just kind of hide away. Obviously, you guys will still see it. I don't know. I'm looking at myself now, as you can tell, and it makes me look very, very young, that's for sure. And basically today in this podcast, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about habits because obviously, wherever you are in the world, you're definitely suffering the consequences somewhat of the pandemic and the outbreak at the moment. And the general consensus is that it's just a matter of time before the UK, that's where I'm based, of course, goes into total lockdown, more or less. You know, you can't go outside unless it's essential. This being going to the shops to buy food, walking your dog, exercising, maybe to buy clothes, stuff like that. And obviously with that, you still have to be about 2 meters apart from people, which currently people aren't doing. It's the 22nd of March. Happy Mother's Day for those of you that are celebrating that, getting involved with that. But yeah, it's very much life as normal where I'm currently at, other than the fact that the shops, the restaurants and all that are closed. I went out for a run today and there were people everywhere, just walking around, enjoying the weather. It's finally good weather out there, and I was speaking to my family yesterday how it's unfortunate because this typically would have been a very joyous weekend. You know, it's Mother's Day. It's essentially been the first sunny, summery, warm weekend of the year, and everyone would be out. And to be fair, a lot of people have still gone out, much in contrast to the recommendation of the self-isolation. But then again, you know, exercise is one thing. It's a very tough situation. But basically, the point of this sort of podcast, I guess, partly for me, I love making them. I love sitting down and chatting to you guys, but habits are very, very important, in my opinion, in living a fulfilled and successful lifestyle. If you have no habits or habits that don't benefit you each and every day, then you're going to be, I guarantee you, in a worse place than you were before. So I thought I'd talk to you just a little bit about habits and some of the habits that I've adopted, particularly over the last 6 months, where I really feel like I've got my life together and I feel great. Every single morning I wake up without an alarm. I wake up ready to face the day. I have my sort of routine and I get through my day. I get tons of work done, all the work I need to get done. This podcast is just for fun, you know, it's not work for me or anything like that. So we're going to have a sip of water, which really ties in with the whole habit thing for one. So if you've got a drink, by all means, take a sip of water, leave a like, drop a comment down below as always. I read all the comments, really appreciated the support on the last few, so let's get that done. This one definitely won't be as long as the previous episode. This one might be 10 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, it might be half an hour. I have no idea. It might be 5 minutes. It probably won't be because I've just written a basic layout for this thing, and then the idea of the podcast is that I'll just kind of talk when I see fit. If I have a couple of notes, I can then talk freely. And the thing is, it's really weird. Is it vain that I like listening to my own podcasts? I like not watching them. I don't just sit there and stare at myself, but as a secondary background thing while I'm doing something else, perhaps admin or something like that, I will happily chuck on one of my own podcasts. I do it with my friends. Max, his podcast, I'll chuck that on even though I've seen them multiple times. I think I just like the company. I enjoy it, and hopefully I'll be getting better as each one goes on. But anyway, habits. We all know that certain things are, you know, just habits for everyone, or at least mostly everyone. You know, stuff like brushing your teeth and washing your hands, very much so. Lately, of course, it's very easy for us. There's very little mental resistance. And I think one thing that people try and do when they try and create a new habit, or perhaps a New Year's resolution, they shoot for the stars way too early and they make it unattainable. And you need to make your habits manageable. I'm guilty of this. You know, I'll make a New Year's resolution, think, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this. Perhaps my New Year's resolution or habit is born out of restriction. I'm saying I'm not going to do this, stuff that I am used to doing. I'm not going to eat all these types of food, stuff that I'm used to doing. And what happens when you try and restrict yourself to such an extent? You break the habit. And there is a theory in creating new habits known as the 2-minute rule. And essentially it just describes starting the act of a habit and doing it for 2 minutes, setting the bar very, very low, which offers very little resistance. But most of the time, believe it or not, actually encourages you to do more whilst you feel even better about doing it. So I'll give you an example. If you want to create the habit of reading, and I obviously self-isolation, I've done a few things recently that I haven't done for a long time. I've started reading. I've practiced my ukulele for about half an hour today. It's something main reason I didn't do that is because I'd never found my ukulele tuner, the thing that helps me tune the ukulele. And then when tidying up, which is another thing you can do when you're isolated, I found it and then sort of put two and two together and started strumming away. But let's say your desired habit is to start reading, okay? And reading 2 minutes is easy for anyone. If you just read a page or two, reading for 2 minutes is easy. And then reading from 2 minutes to say 20 minutes or half an hour or even an hour, because I read yesterday for about an hour and a half and I wasn't planning to. I just thought, let's just open the book and start reading. And it turned into an hour and a half. So reading from 2 minutes onwards to wherever you then decide to stop feels so much more rewarding because you're overachieving, essentially. If you've opened the book with the intention of reading for 2 minutes and you keep going, you're thinking, this is great. I'm only supposed to be, the goal you've set for yourself is to be reading for 2 minutes. I'm only supposed to be reading for 2 minutes and I'm reading for longer than that. Whereas if it's not a habit and you've set yourself the goal of reading for 20 minutes, as opposed to just happening to read for 20 minutes after doing your initial 2, certainly at the very least, the first 10 minutes before the halfway mark are likely to feel quite tough. Whereas the 2 minute rule means that from 2 minutes to 10 minutes, that 8 minutes feels great, as opposed to the 10 minutes feeling difficult if you feel you're really far away from your goal of setting the habits of 20 minutes of reading. So that's essentially the way I think you should, try and start your habits. Make them very, very tiny. Something that you can do every single day. If it's exercise, and I don't know what kind of level of fitness you're at, but let's say it was me a few months ago, for instance, when I started my weight loss journey. If your habit is to get some form of activity every single day or exercise, that can start with a 10-minute walk. And mainly because or even a 2-minute walk to the end of your driveway. But obviously that's not even much of a walk. Just go outside. And by the time you're outside and have left your house, to even make some sort of small circle around the block, it's going to take you 5 or 10 minutes. So 10-minute walk a day, or just 50 press-ups in 5 groups of 10 or 10 groups of 5. Or if you haven't done many press-ups in your life, 20 press-ups, 10 press-ups, 20 sit-ups, that sort of thing. Just doing those and not having to continue and then feeling content with doing that and doing that every single day. Very, very easy. If it takes you 5 minutes to do, 10 press-ups in 5 minutes, like taking it very, very slowly, just a real controlled press-up that feels quite difficult. Every 30 seconds, you just do one. You do one for essentially 10 seconds, rest for 20 seconds. This is very, very simple. 5 minutes to you is no time at all. How easy is it to sit on your bed and just waste away 5 minutes scrolling? Very, very easy. Very, very easy to do that. And it's amazing how productive you can be once you take what would normally fly by when you're sat down doing nothing, essentially. Once you take that small amount of time, you feel like you've got so much more time in the day. And I mentioned this in a previous podcast about how people act like they have no time in the day. And that's just because we're used to wasting it. We're in the habit of wasting time. Like this morning, I wasn't entirely sure when I left the house to go on a run. And I was running for just over an hour and 20 minutes. And I got in and saw that it was just past 11:30 in the morning. I felt like I'd had a whole day experience. I'd run through 3 local parks, like big park places, and along a reserve and the coastline. And I ran for an hour and 20 minutes, and I felt like I had a whole day of experiences. I stayed far away from people, because obviously I don't want to be rubbing elbows with people anymore at this point. But it wasn't even the afternoon, and I'd already felt so productive. And whereas yesterday, I went out and I ran for 15 minutes. It is just getting out and doing it. So that is that's the way I see habits. I think if you just start very, very small, a lot of people say, shoot for the stars. And I do get in some situations, it's great to shoot for here and then land here instead of shooting for here and landing here. Like, yes, you got where you shot for if you set the bar low, but if you can set the bar really high and land here, this difference here is still progress, and that is great. So I thought now I'd go through some of the habits that I have, just very, very small habits that I've found to be very, very valuable in my life and have kept me productive. So the first one, and this is give or take, some, like the first one is sleep by midnight, and that usually means, especially now that I'm up by 8 a.m. with no alarm. Yesterday morning, I went to bed at about 12, and I said to myself, you know what, I think I'm going to lie in, because it was my last day at the gym. They'd announced that all the gyms had closed, and I was maybe going to take some sort of rest day, or at least just try and lay in bed and recuperate. And I was wired at 7:30, and that's because every single day for months before that, I haven't been lying in. So my body clock is essentially so in tune with the world clock. I believe it's called your circadian rhythm, where your body, it's obviously starts to produce, I think it's melatonin to help you sleep once it stops getting light, essentially from the sun, which is why it's recommended that you either don't look at screens for an hour before bed, or you at least turn on a blue screen filter or wear blue light glasses, because the blue light that is emitted from screens that I can see on my computer screen here, that can stimulate your brain to not produce melatonin, I believe, because your body thinks, well, it's still daytime, so no need to go to bed. But so that's one habit, is essentially just sorting out my sleep pattern. I find it incredible that sleep is so often overlooked, especially as young people, because, and I've been there, I've stayed up till 4 a.m. and done the late night gaming sessions and just thrown all care to the wind. I'd be gaming at one point in my depressive stage, and the sun would start coming up. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., the sun's coming up outside, and I haven't gone to bed yet. And because I'm still wired to wake up early, I'd probably go to bed and then wake up maybe 10, 11, always have a massive headache, always feel groggy, and that cycle would just repeat, and you get into the habit of staying up late. And it's taken me, I guess, at least a few weeks, but I've been doing it for a few months to get into the habit of sleeping well. And a lot of people, they tell me they only get 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep a day, and I'm aware that certain people have problems. A lot of people have sleep problems, insomnia. Some people, it's just as simple as drinking too much before bed and they have to go to the bathroom a lot. I try not to drink too much before bed, and we'll get on to that because that's another habit of mine, because I don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night, and I very rarely wake up in the middle of the night, certainly to the point where I think I got to get up and go to the toilet. That never happens for me, because you don't want to interrupt your night's sleep. You want to try and get 7 hours sleep. For me, is optimal. Some people need 8. Some people do need 6. It is what it is. You know what works for your body, and you know how well your body runs. And back last year, even when I was sleeping quite a lot, I'd still need naps during the day because I wasn't in a healthy state. Whereas now, with the help of exercise, which it sounds not right, but exercise does actually give you more energy, and it actually makes you rest better as well. I'm sure you guys understand that, but exercise is a huge help. So definitely, if you feel like you're not perhaps getting the best sleep right now, just slowly, and it took me a while, you slowly drag it down. It got to the point where it started off 1 a.m. at one point, midnight, and then it settled around 11:30. Then I brought it down to 11 p.m. and then a few times I tried about 10:30, 10 o'clock, and I realized that was actually too early for me. I was going to bed too early, and I wasn't tired enough to get good sleep, essentially. So I brought it back up to 11:30, and 11:30 p.m. to midnight is my sweet spot, and that'll wake me up without an alarm from about 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. There's that kind of wiggle room there, and that is huge for me. To be able to rely on my body to wake myself up and go to sleep is great. I know other people do struggle with sleep, but if you can there's a lot of trial and error, I think, when you discover how your body works, whether that's with your diet and with calories and different types of food. There's such thing as an elimination diet, where you pick and choose different things to include and not include in your diet to see how your body responds, whether that's in terms of bloating, bowel movements, how you feel, energy, all that stuff. And you might find you may have a slight intolerance to some kind of food or drink, and to stay away from that so you can perform at your optimal best. Now, once I've woken up in the morning, big habit, and I actually referenced this in my recent video on this channel where I reacted to an old video of mine from 5 years ago, and I just said in that video 5 years ago that I'd started making my bed. And that's a very easy thing to do, making your bed. Just get up, lay your blanket out, make your bed. And that is a habit that I still do to this day, every single day. And it blows my mind when people don't make their bed. I'll see on social media, they've got a scruffed up blanket in bed. And it's just, this bed here, my brother made it. My brother's sleeping here now because he's back from uni early because of the whole situation. I'm sleeping in the other room, as I always have been. He didn't make his bed yesterday. He and I discussed it, and I'm very pleased to say he made his bed this morning. And he does say he usually makes his bed at university. And that is a huge habit, because mentally, one, it's a success. You look at a neatly made bed and it just looks great, doesn't it? If you think about bed like advertisements, the bed isn't not made. The bed wants to look as good as possible for you to buy it, and a made bed is a happy bed, and once you've done that, you've literally succeeded immediately. So that is huge. Make your bed. If you don't do that already, I cannot stress it enough. Make your bed. And also, if later on in the day you decide to lay down and rest in your bed, you don't feel as sluggish and lazy. Believe it or not, if you're laying on top of a made bed that feels nice and clean, whereas if you're getting in and amongst the blankets and you're essentially going to bed in the middle of the day, it doesn't feel great. Because if you lay on top of a made bed, if you want a 5-minute lie down, just a little bit of a rest, you're separate from the act of sleeping as opposed to getting in and getting all involved with that. So making your bed is an absolutely huge one. It takes less than 2 minutes. So the 2-minute rule, there's very little resistance, and you will just not be able to function without a made bed eventually. You'll want to do it and it'll be great. The next one is drinking water. So I think both of us right now, cheers, social distance drink. So this was actually my New Year's resolution, believe it or not. And this is probably the first time I can say and think back that I've definitely sort of kept to and stuck a New Year's resolution. I can't remember anything too specific back in the day. It was always just get fit or keep fit, stay fit, something to do with fitness. And that does and can offer quite a lot of mental resistance, especially if you're in a place of, not really keeping up with your fitness for a while. If you have been overweight for a long time or you're obese like I was, and December 31st, you're like, right, tomorrow I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to go to the gym every single day. And that's your New Year's resolution. I think that was pretty much my New Year's resolution, right? My goal for 2019, run every day of the year. And now, I'm not perfect, obviously. Run every day of the year. What? So, you know what happened? I ran for the first 7 days, and then the 8th day, I didn't run, but the reason I didn't run, in fairness, was because I then signed up to a gym, and that day I was signing up to the gym, and that is still the gym that I go to now, and obviously not now, but it's the gym I went to on Friday and cannot wait to get back to. And I thought, I almost gave myself an excuse to not run, because I was like, well, I've signed up for a gym. That's a good step. So that lasted for a week, and then I didn't run every day. Not at all. And actually, recently, I kind of have been running every single day. I run every day I go to the gym. I go to the gym every day, or I have been going. I'll look in my diary here. So I did a challenge on my main channel, a fitness challenge of 100,000 steps in a day, which is about 80 kilometers, 50 miles. I went for a 10-mile run on that day to help me with the step count, and then walked for, it must have been about 12 hours or something ridiculous. Not even 12 hours? Well, I thought it wasn't 12 hours. It was about 15 hours. It was ridiculous. And after that day, I took the next 2 days off. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't run. I did go for a walk, but it was about 5,000 steps in both of those days. And since then, that was the 22nd and 23rd of February, I had those 2 rest days. The 24th of February to today, the 22nd of March, I've gone to the gym, which means gone running, because I always start my workout with a treadmill. I've gone running every single day. And the last 2 days when the gym hasn't been open, I went running yesterday for a quicker run, more like a fast run / sprint. And then today I went for a long, I think it was just over 7 miles, a jog. And so I've been running every single day, and that wasn't even a goal of mine. But back then, I shot way too high. It shouldn't have been that high. But getting back to what this means for me this year in 2020, it wasn't going to be fitness related. I was still losing weight. I was about 180 pounds come New Year. I think I got up to 184 pounds on the 2nd of January because I went ham on Christmas and New Year. I went absolutely crazy and ate loads of food because I think, life is worth living and you got to enjoy it. And now I weighed in today just after the run at 157 pounds. So even from New Year, when I'd lost 40 pounds last year, I then lost a further 27 pounds this year. So I know I wasn't at my goal, but I didn't say, let's keep fit. My New Year's resolution was to drink 2 litres of water a day. That was it. Just 2 litres of water a day, two of these bad boys. And I started doing that. I would drink quite a bit when I wake up, and then it started to get to the point where I thought, right, let's just drink half a litre as soon as I wake up. Let's just chug that bad boy. And then it's 1.5 litres in a day. And I can do that because obviously I do this for a living. And obviously my throat gets a bit sore, so water helps with that. In fact, let's drink some water. Why not? But all it was drink 2 litres of water a day. Even if I cheated on my diet or didn't really exercise, because from about the 10th of January, I didn't exercise every day because I was spending time mostly with my brother who was down here from uni. But from the 11th of January onwards, I pretty much exercised every day until now, which is just crazy. But even when I failed every other aspect, I could still, go to bed, make my bed, and drink 2 litres of water. And I've done that, guaranteed, every single day since the new year. And nowadays, every single day when I wake up, another habit that I definitely feel like I've pretty much worked into my daily routine. It started off with 500 milliliters because I thought, why not? 600, and then it stayed at 700 for a while because that was, or just over 700 because that was 25 ounces, and that was a nice round number for me. Now I just drink one of these, a whole liter, in one go when I wake up. And with the 2 litres goal in mind, it would be harder for me to not drink 2 litres, which is now 1 litre for a whole day, and has now become 3 litres every day, even though I'm still shooting for 2 litres, just because I'm drinking more water. It's now 3 litres of water a day, and now I don't need to pee every 30 minutes, because when I started drinking 2 litres of water a day, let me tell you, every 30 minutes I was going to the toilet. And, I was hydrated. It was very watery, the urine, but yeah, it makes you go to the toilet, but you do get used to it, because like I said, I'm now drinking 3 litres of water a day at least, and that's not including my sort of fat burner drink. It's like my morning coffee and my pre-workout if I have them, which both combined are about 400 to 500 milliliters, which is half a litre again. But other than that, water is the only liquid that I drink, and I don't need to go to the toilet. My bladder isn't exploding, and I keep hydrated. And the main reason I wanted that to be a resolution is because I used to always get headaches, and I always thought it's because I'm staring at screens all day, and that definitely doesn't help. But I think it also was largely due to dehydration, because essentially if you're dehydrated, I'm pretty sure your brain shrinks. Your brain, if you think about watering your brain, for instance, and like feeding it the nutrients it needs almost, it would swell, and you can just imagine that in your head. Well, if it shrinks, it's going to be pulling on your skull. I don't know if there's any scientific sort of evidence to back that up, but it does give you a headache. And since I've started drinking, I don't get headaches anymore. Despite looking at screens for hours a day, I don't get headaches, and I put that down to water. So that's another habit of mine. The next habit of mine is actually intermittent fasting. And I could go into this more probably in another video when I talk specifically about my weight loss journey. But there are many different reasons why you can choose to intermittent fast. And mine is a much more simple reason than a lot of people. A lot of people intermittent fast because the research that suggests once you don't eat and you're in a fasted state for 16 hours, your body essentially turns to fat for energy, as opposed to carbs and sugar stores that you would have had you not been fasting, because you're continually feeding your body, right? So that's why also the keto diet, low carb, essentially, if you do it very strictly, you could be in a state of ketosis all the time, and that is why you could potentially burn more fat. That's essentially the idea. But I didn't do intermittent fasting for that reason, right? So 16 hours, 8 hours is pretty much the way I did it. Usually from 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. I wouldn't eat. And that gives me 8 hours to eat. I'm not necessarily intermittent fasting for the direct fat burning benefits in the sense of the way the body takes energy from itself. I literally did intermittent fasting just to help me stick to a calorie goal. Because if I'm eating as soon as I wake up at, say, 8 a.m., I have a massive bowl of cereal, I'm going to be hungry by 10 a.m. and eat. Whereas if I don't eat, I'm not really hungry. And basically, I used the intermittent fasting to ensure that I felt satiated and full, but didn't overeat. Because with the amount of gym work that I do and the amount of walking that I do, oh my goodness, walking is absolutely unreal, but we'll get to that. With that amount, I'm burning well over 3,000 calories a day, sometimes 4,000 calories a day. Do you know how hard it is to eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories of good food in 8 hours? It's more or less impossible. And even with bad food, I'd have cheat days where I'd eat 4,000 calories in that window, that 8-hour window, but I'd also burn 4,000 calories that day, so my weight would be unaffected by a cheat day. I could indulge, I could have pizza, I could have chocolate. I had a ton of chocolate last night and yesterday because it was a Saturday. My brother come home. He's a feeder. There's chocolate everywhere. And I was at my new lowest weight today after the run. I'm aware I was slightly dehydrated after the run. When I do exercise, I'm lighter. But I didn't gain any weight from eating a ton of chocolate, because really weight loss is down to calories in and calories out. That is the bottom line. You might not be as healthy on the inside if you're starved of the nutrients that you need. If you're only eating McDonald's at 1,500 calories a day, you're going to lose weight, but you're not going to be perhaps the best internally. You know, your vitamin level is going to be all over the place. I do take vitamins and stuff just to supplement perhaps what I don't get in my diet, and it works perfectly fine. Intermittent fasting, I don't get hungry in the mornings, and sometimes I might eat in the morning, like on that 100k steps day. I ate in the morning because I knew that my body would need energy. But that day was crazy. I burned about 9,000 calories, and I felt a bit sick in the evening due to the amount of exercise, so I couldn't eat that much. So I only ate about 2,500 calories that day. So that meant I ate a ton, like 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day for the 2 days after. And again, didn't gain any weight because the amount I'd burned. It really is calories in, calories out. Intermittent fasting helps me with portion control because I'm a bit of a binger. So that's why I have that habit. Now, the next habit that I've really started since January, it wasn't a resolution of mine, I just kind of did it, mostly because of a gift my sister got me. This is it. The Do It Later, a 2020 planner or non-planner for the creative procrastinator. Now, I'm a big planner, a big planner. As you can see, I write everything down that I do. And this habit is checklists. Checklists, I could speak for half an hour on checklists alone. They are absolutely phenomenal. Let's have a little drink. But man, checklists, they make me so productive. I'm at the stage now where if I write something in my book, if I write something in there, it happens. Once the pen writes it down, it's almost like it is law. And that's just because there's something very, very therapeutic about writing stuff down, for one. Before I got this book from my sister, I never wrote stuff down. The only stuff I wrote was like, expenses and stuff for accounts and everything like that. Excuse me, there's something. I ate an apple right before recording, and there we go. It just got into my system a little bit there. But checklists are absolutely phenomenal. Basically, what I'll do every Sunday, I've written it in every Sunday for the last few months, I do something called the weekly roundup. And that is essentially, so this is this week, where I plan out the next week. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Plan out the next week. And then I wake up, I do my morning routine, all my habits that I've got, and I make a habit of writing these things down. And then I know what I'm doing every single day. And when you have a checklist, things become a lot more manageable. If I wake up on a Monday morning, and I used to do this last year when I was in my apartment and I wasn't, living the way I live now, I would wake up on a Monday morning and think, right, I've got 7 to 8 videos to make this week. What do I do? Let's try and think of some ideas. Let's try and do that. I think in my day in the life of a YouTuber video, even when I was in this house back then, I was doing that on Monday morning. I was waking up on Monday with no idea of how my week was going to pan out. Well, nowadays, I take Sundays, which are very, very relaxed and chill. And, knowing that I don't have any other work to do that day primarily, because I don't count this as work, I write down my entire schedule for the next week. So now, when I wake up tomorrow, I will know exactly what I need to do. I know I've got a chiropractor appointment tomorrow. It's written down. I know that based on Rocket League and the new update that's coming out and all the pre-recording I've done recently, I don't have to make any videos for my main channel on Monday and Tuesday. However, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I've got to make 7 videos all based on the new update. And checklists really, they kind of break down all the tasks that you need to do and make things a lot more manageable. And it's so satisfying for me. As you can see again, I will show you again. The amount of ticks on that page are unreal. And every single little thing that I do, I can get a little tick. And there's that endorphin rush that is like, yes, you're succeeding. You're setting the bar low. Let me have a look and see what, the least, I guess, stressful thing to do. Monday, call at 12 p.m. So this was essentially just a 10-20 minute call with another creator. They were interviewing me for one of their shows. I really enjoyed it. I sat here, spoke with them about the things we were speaking about, and hopped off. And that was a big fat tick. A big fat tick. Monday, basketball. Went and played basketball with my friends. This is before the craziness of the corona. Tick. That is a leisure activity, but I scheduled it down. I also count it as exercise, which is very, very important to me. I ticked it. So just ticking things off, little tasks. Yesterday, metadata. That meant that all I had to do was make 2 thumbnails and upload them to the YouTube videos that I'd uploaded the day before. Tick. It's so rewarding to get through a checklist and just completing little to-dos. And you could create a habit checklist. Get up, drink water, tick. Make your bed, tick. And it's that positive reinforcement of doing things that benefit your life, that create the habit because you want to do it every day. You crave completion. I'm a completionist. I've said this to my dad. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. With the 100,000 step day, we'll get onto the final habit that I've got to talk to you about today. It's step count. So with the 100,000 step day, I basically wanted to do that because the most difficult badge to get on Fitbit is 100,000 steps in a day. I thought of possibly doing it at some point in my life on Tuesday. Let me go back to when this happened, shall we? Because I've got it all recorded. So Tuesday the 18th of February, I just finished cricket training with my dad, taking the diary, and I thought to myself, I could do this. I could do 100,000 steps in a day. Then on the Wednesday, I looked at the logistics of it. I thought, is it physically possible to do 100,000 steps in a day? Like, can I do it? How would I do it? And I planned out a rough route and a rough timetable, which meant getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going to the gym, running, coming back home, walking for 8 hours, coming back home, walking for a few more hours, and finishing by 10 p.m. You know, it was about 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. In the end, it ended up being about 4:30 in the morning to 10:15 in the evening. I had to deal with some injuries and stuff like that, but there's a video on my main channel you can go and watch if you want to do that. And once I realized on the Wednesday that it was logistically possible, I had the time because I'd recorded all my videos for the week. By Thursday, I knew I was going to be done because it was written down in my diary. And then the final thing I did was check the weather. Is the weather going to be so bad to the point where it means not that I can't do it, but I would really, really struggle and perhaps I should consider rescheduling? And it wasn't going to be bad. It wasn't going to be raining. So I wrote in big letters here, 100K day. And as soon as this pen hit the paper and wrote 100K day on the Wednesday, I said, there's no way I don't do that. Because the power of writing it down, just next level for me. I don't know if it's me. Maybe I'm slightly obsessive. And I think certainly with fitness, for instance, if you want to really succeed, you do kind of have to become a tad obsessive. But I don't think that's a problem because it's self-care, it's self-love. So yeah, be selfish in the sense that you do what's best for you. And as soon as I wrote it down, there's no way I was going to fail. And I succeeded it. And it was fantastic. It was amazing. I loved it. Great experience. I probably won't do it again. But then I say that, I'm already thinking of the next thing, possibly running a marathon or something crazy like that. Maybe doing the challenge again, but doing it more prepared in different ways. But anyway, 100,000 steps. How did I prepare for that? I did 15,000 steps a day, every single day for the month before that. Majority of the time hitting 20,000 steps and then a few times hitting 30,000 steps. And the recommended amount of walking to stay healthy by Fitbit is actually 10,000 steps a day. And at my usual pace, I tend to do about 1,000 steps every 10 minutes for walking. So that's an hour and 40 minutes of walking a day. And it was very, very nice for me to know that my gym was a 50-minute walk away. Still is. So walking there is 5,000 steps and walking back is 5,000 steps. So just simply by turning up to the gym, I've succeeded in my 10,000 steps for the day. And obviously, by the time I get to the gym, I've walked 50 minutes. I'm not just going to turn around and come back home. I've walked there to a destination for a reason. And that means I get a workout in and I have an amazing workout. That now means for the last month, it means a 5K at least on the treadmill and then a bunch of weights. The two things I do every single time in the gym without fail. Other exercises I rotate, but two things I do without fail. Running on the treadmill. Once I did feel sick and I ran for 5 minutes, but that's because I kind of went to the gym on a full stomach and I don't normally do that. But it's run on the treadmill and do 200 crunches. Abs, I don't really think abs need rest. You can work them all day, every day. And I really, since January, I've started developing my abs and the difference has been unreal. The abs under here feel great. 200 crunches a day. That's what I do, amongst other stuff. But those are the two guarantees in the gym. So with a 5k on the treadmill, that's about 1,000 steps every 6 minutes for me, about 1,000 steps a kilometer, really. That's the way it ends up being. That's 15,000 steps just by running and walking, not including the 1,000 to 2,000 steps I get in the gym just walking about and the 1,000 to 2,000 steps at home I get walking about. So that means I average about 17,000, 18,000. And once I got into the habit of that, it was very, very easy to meet that step count. And I felt anxious if I couldn't walk. And that meant I never didn't walk. If I was thinking, I haven't really walked right now, I would go out for a walk for the sake of it, just to get the step count up. And that does sound a bit obsessive, and it kind of was, but it helps me out a lot, because for me, walking, I'll speak about this in another podcast, but walking is the best way to lose fat, in my opinion. It's the best return in terms of calories burned for the amount of effort you put in. Yes, running burns more calories. I burned about 900 calories, I think, in an hour and 20 minutes. It would take me about just over 2 hours to burn that same amount of calories. For me, someone who's very fit, if I felt like running, I'd choose an hour and 20 minute run over a 2 hour walk. But for you, say if you're just getting into fitness, an hour and 20 minute run might sound like the worst thing you could ever do. But a 2 hour walk, if you've got time, you've got a nice place to walk to, sounds so much more manageable. So walking, bang for your buck, is absolutely unreal. I'll stand by that. I'm going to become some kind of advocate for walking one day, because it's ridiculous. You burn all sorts of calories. But yeah, it's got to the point now where I will go out for walks, whether that's with my family, not very recently, but recently-ish, or I'll go out for a walk by myself, chuck a podcast on, chuck some music on, and just walk around and enjoy the world. And the crazy thing is, the contrast from me now to last year, where sometimes I stay indoors for 2 or 3 days straight. I'd have food stocked. Maybe, just maybe, I'd walk down from my apartment to collect a delivery from Domino's. That was it. Nowadays, I essentially have to reach 10,000 steps. And luckily, with self-isolation, even quarantine, social distancing, you can go outside for exercise. You can run as long as you stay within 2 meters away from everyone else. Well, no one's running near me. I'm running away from them. We're all good. So, although it's a very scary sort of concept, because the reason the step count habit has been such a habit for me is because walking is a lot easier. I'm sure you can imagine this. You don't need me to tell you. Walking is a lot easier when you have a destination. So I could walk 10,000 steps with always going to a destination. First 5,000 to a gym, next 5,000 home, which is great. I love being at home. Who doesn't love being at home? Whereas if I'm going out to walk for 10,000 steps just in a big circle, I'm just walking for the sake of it. Even maybe when I get to a halfway point, I can then say, right, I'm going to walk home now, and that is then better. But it's so much better to walk to a destination. So I have been a little bit anxious. Everyone's struggling with different things recently, but a little bit anxious over this weekend about the idea of not going to a gym, because it's been in my life every single day, and it means I'd have to walk not to a destination, which is mentally quite difficult. But I'm doing my best. I'm doing well. I'm trying to stay positive, and I hope this podcast is helping. I can feel my throat is starting to tickle a little bit, because I did come in quite hot as opposed to taking it easy in a podcast way, but I got passionate about it. So that is my podcast about habits, how important I think it is to create habits, and how special I think it is to have habits to live a successful and happy life. And also with the 2-minute rule and other things like that, how you perhaps can implement habits into your life that you might initially think are a little bit scary or a little bit daunting or perhaps unattainable. Take it step by step, and habits do become easier. And once you formed them, you do honestly feel like you're on top of the world. So definitely leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and leave a comment down below, because I read them all. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Don't know when it's going to be, but once I've written it down in here, it'll happen, because I've gotten written down on Sunday today, record podcast number 3. And here we are. So I'll see you in the next video very soon. Whole podcast, my throat's not too sore, and my face isn't red. Success.